have the vision, but detach from how you get there, right? So you have to learn to let go of the how so that you can stay open-minded to the other opportunities that are making their way to you. Welcome to High on Self-Care. I'm your host, Stacey Zeal, yoga teacher, crystal lover, high-functioning stoner, and CEO of MaryZeal.com, a community for stoners who love cannabis and are looking to prioritize their self-care. On this podcast, we'll explore ways that meditation, mindfulness, yoga, and of course, all things weed can help you to elevate your self-care. We'll explore ways to truly value ourselves, use stillness for self-discovery, and cannabis to go higher on our journey. Think of me as your sister stoner who lovingly encourages you to prioritize yourself and reap the benefits of this magical plant. If you're ready to create a life that holds space for your most valuable asset, that's you, by the way, take a deep breath, light your J, and let's dive in. Hey there, High on Self-Care listener. Welcome back to another episode. I am your host, Stacey Zeal, and I'm so excited for you to be here. Today, we are talking all about alignment. That is kind of the theme of the month. Last month's theme was about being intentional. It was all about, learning about how to use cannabis really specifically for different things that can help you. So like endometriosis and learning about CBD and, learning how to pick specific strains and then how to manage stress and all that kind of stuff. So last month's episode, we're all about intention. This month, what's been on my mind lately and what's been on my, my spirit lately has been alignment. Like, how do you realize or how do you make aligned decisions so that you get to where you want to be? So that the life that you have in your mind, the vision that you have, how do you make that come to life, right? Like, how do you live in a way that keeps you aligned with that vision? And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And I think about so many unaligned decisions that I have made in my life. And I want to walk you through some of those. And it got me thinking also that, it is Mary Zeal's 1-year anniversary. So MaryZeal.com is our site that hosts the podcast. It hosts all of our educational content. It has a bunch of freebies over there for cannabis related things, self-care things, how to combine them, all kinds of great information. And the 1-year anniversary is on September 3rd, 2020. And it'll be 1 year, I guess 2021. But I'm so excited and I'm so proud of that because it really, the hardest thing to do is start. And I know that sometimes when we're trying to live a life that we're trying to make our dreams come true, we're trying to bring our vision to life, that sometimes it's overwhelming and sometimes you want to do so many things, or if you're multi-passionate like me, you want to do so many things and you have so much going on that it's hard to just start, or you're trying to get it right, you're trying to get it perfect, you're trying to make the best right decision of your life and get it perfect. But the most important thing to do is just start. And I started MaryZeal.com. It went from being a blog to being a podcast to staying a podcast because I love podcasting and I love this medium works so much better for me. I feel more aligned doing this podcast than I did doing blogging. And so we're going to go through some of the things that through my life I've kind of pulled out as examples for how unaligned decisions can throw you off and how to start making aligned decisions. So I was listening to a podcast and it's called Mind Witchery. It's with Natalie Miller. And the podcast episode I was listening to recently was called A Spell for Making Decisions. And this got me thinking about this topic, alignment, all that kind of stuff. And I wanted to give you a definition of kind of what she says a decision is, right? And it gave me a kind of a really good perspective. And I think it'll set the context for the things that we're going to talk about today. So a decision, really, if you think about it, a decision is simply just a next step. Because there will always be more decisions that need to be made. And that's kind of what she was getting at in that episode is that, we can make one decision. There is no right or wrong decision, right? Saying like, I understand how we want to say like, I want to make the right decision, right? It's taken me a while because that's me, right? That's all I used to say. I'm a perfectionist. I'm a recovering perfectionist, right? And I used to be like, I just want to make the right decision. I can't get it wrong. But really, there is no right or wrong decision. There is just a decision, right? There is just a step that I'm taking to either, to do the next thing, right? And then there's always more steps. So decisions are not final, right? Rarely are they ever like a final decision, right? You can always make a different decision. You can always change. You can always pivot or whatever. And so I give you this kind of context because it fits within living an aligned life. It takes the pressure off a little bit, right? Because I don't want you to think that this episode is going to tell you how to live the right life or how to avoid making the wrong mistakes or making the wrong decisions, because that's not what it's about, right? And that's how life kind of works, right? We make a decision and then we have to make another one, and then we have to make another one, and then we have to make another one, right? And so really, like, if we anticipate that, if we know that, if we understand that life is about decisions, how do we then make sure that we have a vision, and we're working towards that vision? Because the decisions are going to come after, the decision has to come after we have the vision. We have to start with the vision. How do you want to live your life? What do you want your life to look like? Whether that, and knowing that it will evolve and change, right? But what do you want your life to look like? And then that's how you decide on what decisions to make. And so that's step one. So this is tip one. So tip one is to start with self. And the reason I start here, I'm going to give you a little story, give you a little context to tell you why I start here, right? Why do you have to start with self? You have to start with having the vision. And so a few years ago, I guess, at this point, who knows? The years are just kind of whatever. So at one point in my life, I was a makeup artist. And the reason I became a makeup artist is because I was in a job that I did not like. I thought, it must be this whole industry. So I just need to completely change industries. I need to figure out what do I like to do? I don't know. And so I was looking for something. To get me out of this job I didn't like. And so one time someone was at my house. They were staying over and we were in Vegas. We were going out. And she just asked me to do her makeup. And I was like, oh no, because I did my makeup really well. I do my makeup very well. And I just started, honestly, I was taking classes to just learn how to do my own makeup at first. And then she was just like, oh my gosh, can you please do my makeup? It's my birthday, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, no. She kind of was just like, please, I'm not going to let you leave the bathroom until you do my makeup. And so I just was like, all right, okay, sure, I'll do it. And so I did it. And it was fun. And so I was like, oh, this must be it. I'm going to be a makeup artist. Being a makeup artist is going to save me from this marketing job that I just really don't like. And I dove in head fucking first, okay? I did all the things. I bought the kit. I did all the stuff. I spent all the money. I did the classes. I did conferences, all the things, right? But you know what I did not do? I didn't stop to ask myself whether I liked what I was doing. I didn't stop to ask myself whether being a makeup artist gets me to the vision that I have for my life. At that point, we're kind of just looking for things to do, to see like, oh, do I like this? Do I like this? I don't know. But really, you got to start with yourself. You have to start with asking yourself what you want. In order to live an aligned life, you have to have a vision. You have to understand, what do I want my life to look like? I didn't want my life to look like going from hotel to hotel to gig, carrying a kit and having to be so close to people. I don't like to physically be that close to people, to be honest, right? I didn't like having my time and my money be so connected, right? Like if I didn't show up, I didn't get paid. I didn't like that. Not that I wouldn't show up, but I didn't want to have to, physically do someone's makeup or physically do something for someone in order to get paid, right? I was like, I don't see myself doing this long term. I don't see myself bouncing around from hotel to hotel or anything. And so it just wasn't for me. It just wasn't something that I wanted to do. And so it's important to understand that you are in the driver's seat of your life, right? You are the one driving the car. You are the one steering the ship. So you have to have the vision, not everybody else, because other people will tell you what they want you to do for your life or how your life should look or what your life should be. You are the one who has to live this life. You are the one who has to make decisions about this life. So you have to have the vision. You have to have the vision. So that's tip one. Tip one is to start with yourself. Tip two on how to, live an aligned life. Now that you have your vision, how does your vision make you feel? Tap into your body is tip number two. Our bodies will always give us a signal about whether something is for us or not for us. Think about this. Put that vision that you have in mind, right? This whatever, even if if you have a vision now of how you want your life, or you're still kind of thinking about it, what you have to do is you put that vision in your mind. I like to do this high, of course. Y'all know I do everything high. So grab your favorite uplifting, strain that just makes you feel good and happy, right? Hold that vision in your mind. Close your eyes. How does your body feel? Do you feel tight and anxious? Does it feel open and free? Does it feel freeing? Does it make you feel happy? Does it make you feel angry? Look at where your life is now and where you want to be. Does that make you feel better and make you feel like you want to work towards it? Or does it make you feel like, you know what? No, that's not really what I want. My body's kind of feeling a little tight with that. I got a little twinge or something. And so for me, being a makeup artist felt chaotic. When I think back to it, it felt like chaos to me, physically and mentally, right? It didn't feel aligned. It didn't feel like it was something that was lighting me up. It felt like I was trying to escape from something, and I was trying to grasp onto something that would then allow me to leave this job that I didn't like, right? So tap into your body. How does your body feel? Your body always tells you what's going on. We just have to be able to listen to it. We really have to be able to pay attention to our bodies. And so a couple things that you can do is grab your favorite strain, whatever it is you smoke or consume in any kind of way. Do some yoga. Do some meditation. Try some deep breathing. A lot of the times we don't tap into our body because we don't slow down and actually sit and do it. We don't come to the present moment enough to figure out how our body is feeling in that moment and starting to associate an emotion or a stressor or something going on with how our body is feeling. For me, my body, if I had tapped into my body before I fell asleep driving, if you haven't heard my reason I started to use cannabis, it's because I fell asleep driving because I have insomnia and I ignored it for so long. So now I use cannabis to help me sleep. But before, my body was telling me I was tired. Why? My eyes were heavy. I felt foggy. I felt tired, exhausted. My shoulders are just tight or down, hunched over. So it's important to do things to help you tap into your body. So again, yoga, sitting and meditating, and just breathing. Whether you're meditating or not, just deep breathing. Pay attention to your body. It will always give you some signals about whether something is for you or it's not. All right. So moving on to tip number 3. Tip number 3 is unleash your strengths. So in episode 11 of the podcast, I sit with a strengths coach. And so if you want to learn more about, strengths from a strengths coach perspective, please go back and listen to episode 11. But I'm gonna give you all a little high level overview of what I got from it, right? The teacher and me receiving from that person to then talk about it now. And so what your strengths are things that you bring energy to. So don't think about them as strengths or weaknesses, right? Strengths are things that you bring energy to. So for me, I took a Gallup Clifton strengths test, And I have some other tests that I'm going to talk about in a minute that you can use, that you can take to learn more about yourself. But so I took the test and I learned my top, a couple of my top strengths are harmony, connectedness, positiveness, developer, and a learner, which means that I bring energy to these tasks. So I bring energy to learning new things, right? So for me, it's not necessarily saying or being able to say like, oh, I know XYZ amount of things. It's for me, I bring energy to actually learning something new. And so I love to do that. I love to learn something new all the time. And so it's not necessarily something that is a strength or a weakness per se. It's just something that I bring energy to. And so knowing my strengths and knowing more about yourself, right? How does that help you to live an aligned life, right? You understand what you bring energy to, so you can do more of those things and use and maximize on those things in your life. So here's the thing. For me, like I mentioned, learning, let's take learning as a strength. I love to learn new things, right? So I can always learn something new. And it'll be something that I just, always want to do, whether that's reading a book, whether that's watching a video. I always try to learn something new. Knowing that, though, and knowing that also your strengths can then also hold you back. And that's why I say it could be a strength and a weakness, right? It's not necessarily one or the other. And the way that learning holds me back is because I bring a lot of energy to learning. I tend to also think I don't know enough to be able to speak on a topic or write about it or say something about it. So I always feel like, oh, I need to go do some research before I can say anything about this. But there are times when I have researched this thing to death and I know it, okay? Back and forth, front and back, right? So there are things in your life that you know how to do, that you bring energy to, that can also then hold you back, because if you're stuck in decision paralysis, right? Like say, you're trying to make a decision for your life, but you don't know which way to go. You don't know whether to go left or right. You might start to procrastinate by leaning into your strengths and busying yourself with what you think is actually helping you to do something, to feel like you're actually doing something, but it's really just your strengths holding you back. And let me give you an example. So let's take Mary Zeal, since this is our 1 year anniversary. Let's take that as an example. So writing is not something that is my strength. Okay. I write the emails that go out every week. If you're not on my email list, make sure you get on. I write the show notes, the blog posts, all that kind of stuff, right? But when I first started Mary Zeal, I was writing long form blog posts that were like essentially, 6, 7, 8 paragraphs of actually writing about a subject instead of speaking about it. And I remember thinking last year, like, oh, it just feels like it takes so much out of me to write a blog post. Like, oh my goodness, it took so much energy to actually write something and actually do something. And actually publish it and get it out. And it just was, oh my gosh, I just did not like it at all. And it didn't bring me joy, right? Like in Marie Kondo, it did not bring me joy at all. And so when I was thinking about, I literally sat and thought about shifting to a podcast for a couple months. And I was like, oh, maybe I should do a podcast. Oh, I could do a YouTube video. So what I start to do, research about starting a podcast and all that stuff is well and good, right? But it doesn't take 2 to 3 months of research to actually start a podcast, right? It's very, very simple to get started. And so that's an example of me being indecisive, not sure if this is, something I should do, not sure what I should do. And so I default to something I bring energy to, which is learning. And so I just learn and learn and learn to death, and it holds me back, and it makes me, and it stops me from making the decision that is aligned with who I am, because I'm not making any decision. I'm just paused. I'm just stuck. And so think about how that can apply to your life, right? Think about things that you are, really good at. I really, really highly recommend everyone take a strengths test or a personality test or something like that, because that, the more you learn about yourself, and the more that you learn about how you learn and how you operate and what you bring energy to, the better it is for you, the easier it is for you to live an aligned life, because you can learn how to make decisions that keep you in your strengths. And so all of my top strengths are in relationship building. And so I'm really good at, connecting people and building relationships with others. And so this podcast allows me to do that in a way that blogging did not really allow me to do that, right? Like I get to talk to guests. I have some awesome guests come on for y'all, and I have some awesome more guests lined up. And it really helps me, and I'm great at building relationships with these people. I'm great at, taking what they say and breaking it down for people who, like us, who don't know anything about the subject, right? I bring on people who know things about like endometriosis and all kinds of different things that I have no idea about. And those are just things that lean into my strengths. And so because I'm all conscious and aware of my strengths, I try to make decisions for my life that will keep me aligned with my strengths, right? Like, so this podcast is not going anywhere because I love to do this podcast and I love to record it and I love to build the relationships with the people who come on the show. And so I want you to think about that. Like, think about how knowing more about yourself from an objective perspective, right? Because we all think that we are great at, X, Y, and Z, but really we're not, So here's a couple tests to help you uncover how you operate, how you work. A Gallup-Clifton strengths test that I mentioned is the one I took. There's also an Enneagram that I'm actually wanting to take. I'm probably going to take that pretty soon. And then there's Myers-Briggs. I took that, long time ago. So I really don't know what my results are there. But I'll probably take another one soon. So definitely figure out how you can just continue to learn more about yourself, right? Be a student of yourself. All right. So tip number 4. Tip number 4 is one of my favorite new kind of things to talk about, something I've been really, really pondering and thinking about lately. And tip number 4 is to detach from how. And so we have our vision, right? We have our vision. We know what we want to do in our life, or we have some kind of idea of it, right? Some idea of what the next step should be or how to get there. But we have to detach from the how. And so have the vision, but detach from how you get there. And I'm going to have a guest that comes on to talk about like manifesting and stuff like that. So I'm excited about that. So I'm going to leave some of that there. But to illustrate this, I'm going to give you another story about how this came up for me. And so after I stopped being a makeup artist, I decided to start with self, right? I went back to tip number 1 and just decided to say, like, okay, what do I want my career to look like? What do I want to do with my life? Where do I want to be? And so I came to the conclusion that I wanted to work in tech. And so I was like, okay, I love technology. That's what I want to do. I've been doing that since I was a kid. Okay, great, cool. So I'm going to try to get in tech. And so I decided, okay, I was living in Las Vegas at the time, and there aren't too many tech companies in Las Vegas. And so I decided, okay, I need to move to San Francisco. Boom. That's what I'm going to do. I literally went to San Francisco about 3-4 times. I met with so many great, amazing Black women in tech. To just kind of like, get the ropes and to network and to get to know people, and I was there in San Francisco a lot. Okay. A lot. I was applying to all the jobs, all the places, networking, all the things. And so I was so focused on San Francisco that I almost didn't apply to an opportunity in Las Vegas that ended up becoming the job that literally changed my career. Okay. So I remember seeing it come into my inbox, to my email. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, it's in Vegas. All the tech companies are in San Francisco. But I was like, let me just go ahead and apply and just throw it in there. And I really honestly didn't think that I was going to get called in. I didn't think that anything. I was so focused on getting to San Francisco and moving there and trying to work at Facebook and Pinterest and all these places. I was so focused on that I almost didn't apply and missed out on the job that literally changed my career. And so I applied, I got it. And it literally, my career has changed. My skill set has been expanded beyond anything that I had imagined, right? That I was expecting. And so I give you that story to illustrate how important it is to detach from the how. Have the vision, but detach from how you get there, right? So you have to learn to let go of the how so that you can stay open-minded to the other opportunities that are making their way to you, right? The other, and that's why I said we're going to talk about manifesting with another person, but the opportunities that are making its way to you may not look how you thought it would look. But that doesn't mean that it's not the opportunity that's going to change your life. And so stay open. And so that's not to, honestly, let me give you a little bit of caveat, because that's not to say to take any path, right? That's not to say that you should just get there any kind of way, right? Like saying like, fuck that, if I got to scam and lie and kick people down, I'm going to do it. No, right? Because I believe in karma and all the things, right? So we don't do things that intentionally harm others. So I'm not saying that you just want to get there any old kind of way. But really what I'm saying is that don't focus so much on that how and on that one path that you don't see that little side road that may take you off the path, but it may take you to a beautiful river that you didn't even know existed. So stay open. Stay open for other opportunities. Stay open to other things. And like my laptop wallpaper literally says, do the work, then surrender, right? Because it's not to say that you just don't do anything, right? In order to manifest things to your life, in order to bring things to your life, you have to do the work, right? You have to show up every day. In order for me to, have this vision that I have in my head come to life, I have to get up. I have to do this podcast. I have to batch my episodes, right? I have to make it work with the time that I have, right? So you have to do the work. But then you also have to surrender, because at some point you're going to get to a point where you're doing the work and you're doing the work and you're doing the work and nothing's happening. And you're trying to figure out, why is nothing happening? Why is this vision not coming true? Because I'm doing the work, I'm doing the work, I'm doing the work. But you have to surrender to the time frame, to the universe, to whatever it is that you surrender to, right? You have to surrender, because then that's how you stay open. That's how you continue to do the work even when the results are not showing up yet, because they're on their way to you, right? You have that abundance mindset. What I want, my vision, I have it. Because I've had this vision, it's on its way to me. I just have to continue to do the work. But I also have to detach from how I get there. I also have to surrender to how I get there, so that when I do get there, the beauty is that you realize that the vision is even greater than you expected. The reality becomes greater than the vision that you even imagined. So we've gotten to 4 tips already, right? Last one, tip 5. Tip 5, I wonder if it might be a little shocking, might be a little unexpected. But tip number 5 is to evolve as your vision evolves. And what that really means is to don't be afraid to stop something when it no longer serves you. For the longest time, I thought that I was crazy, because I would start something, I would go all in, and then I would stop when I no longer wanted to do it anymore. When I thought like, oh, this is boring. My dad literally used to say, I remember when I was younger, he would say, you quit a job whenever you get bored. And I'm like, yeah. And I thought that, there was something wrong with that, right? Growing up, I'm thinking like, something's wrong with that. Like what? Like, and so I had to realize I'm not crazy. I'm just multi-passionate. I like lots of things. Okay. And so I say that because you have to allow room for your vision to evolve by allowing yourself to stop or to pivot when something isn't aligned with your vision. And the way that this presented itself in my life, as I was mentioning before and being more specific, when I realized that, before I was a makeup artist, I was a yoga teacher. I was teaching in person. I was literally teaching on top of having a full-time job. I was teaching hot yoga in Vegas. So it was hot, right? But I mean, I did love it. But anyway, I was teaching, and I stopped teaching because I just was like, I am so consumed with teaching. I have no time and no desire to do my own practice. And I started to realize that the reason that I took yoga teacher training was not necessarily because I wanted to become a teacher. That was just the next natural progression. But I took yoga teacher training because I wanted to learn more about yoga. I read a book called Meditations from the Mat, and I wanted to learn so much more about yoga. And so I took a teacher training. And then so I learned so much about yoga, right? And it goes back to my strength of learning, right? I love to learn. But then when it came to the teaching part, I was like, okay, I'm supposed to teach. So I was teaching, I was making some extra cash. It was cool. But then I realized like I want to practice yoga, right? This is eating too much into my time. And so I stopped. And then became a makeup artist, did all the crazy things I mentioned earlier. And the reason I stopped doing that is because I was walking from a hotel. I was in the Palms Casino. I think it was the Palms. Yeah, I think it was Palms Casino. I was walking through the hotel after I had just finished doing someone's makeup for an event she was going to. She was rushing me out because her ride was early, so I had to like carry all my shit. I was frazzled. It felt chaotic. I got in the car. I sat down, and I just was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I stopped. I went and I took down all my website. I took down all my stuff. I, just started to just stop. And I realized, I don't know what it was in that moment. It just made me realize this is just not something I want to do anymore. And so I stopped. And so I say that to you to encourage you to be able to give yourself the freedom to stop. If there is something that you are doing now that is not getting you closer to your vision, it's okay to stop. It's okay to just say, you know what, I'm not going to do that anymore. And for a long time, I mentioned I thought I was crazy. Now I realize it's a strength, right? It's a strength to be able to stop doing something that doesn't serve you, because so many people get stuck living a life that they don't want to live because of shame, because of embarrassment, because of the fear of starting over, right? And if you are experiencing that fear of starting over, fear of living your best life, I have an episode 19, 5 ways to overcome fear and live your best life. It's a great episode. It felt really good to record it. So give yourself permission to evolve. Give yourself permission to stop doing things, even if you dove in headfirst and decided that this was going to be the thing, that was going to be the thing that made my dreams come true. It's okay to stop if it's not serving you anymore. It's okay to say, you know what, that didn't work out. It's okay. I'm not going to do that no more. So as your vision evolves, your decisions must evolve. So as you are going through life and making these aligned, amazing decisions, I hope that you keep these tips in mind. So the 5 tips to recap: always start with self. Tap into your body. Unleash your strengths. Detach from the how or surrender. And evolve with your vision. Okay? So I hope that was helpful. I hope that you got some nuggets out of that. Happy anniversary, Mary Zeal. I did not expect to be telling the world that I smoked weed last year during the pandemic. I was not expecting that. But it's become a place to spread love and education and healing, and that's why it started, right? The vision of Mary Zeal was to help to spread the education, the love, and the healing power of cannabis and self-care, because it's healed me so much, right? So that's the vision. And just because it started out as a blog doesn't mean it had to stay that way, right? I pivoted to a podcast because that's more aligned with who I am and the vision that I see and my strengths. It's more aligned with me. This is dope, right? Right? So if you love this episode, please drop a review below. Reviews help us to reach more people. And head on over to maryzeal.com/favorite things. I have a list of my favorite CBD products that I have tried over the years and other cannabis related products. So you go over to maryzeal.com/favorite things. You'll be able to get that list. I hope to be celebrating another year of the podcast of maryzeal.com. And I'll see you on the next episode. Well, that's a wrap on another episode. Thanks so much for listening. If you got a nugget of information or inspiration from this episode, here are 5 ways you can support the podcast. You can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/high-on-self-care to send your token of appreciation. You can shop Mary Zeal's favorite things. This is a list of products that we love and have actually tried over at maryzeal.com, and some of these products contain affiliate links that give us a kickback when you shop their site at no cost to you. You can leave us a review on your podcast app of choice. If you are listening on the web, be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on the podcast app of choice. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, all the places. Fourth, you can share the podcast with 3 friends that you think will benefit from all the nuggets that we drop. And lastly, you can join my email list to get episodes sent to you weekly and learn about all the fun new things we have coming up on maryzeal.com and the podcast. All the links are in the description, and I will catch you on the next episode.